Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Good evening. Let's pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening and with the privilege of doing the business of the city of Cartersville. And we thank you for this city. We thank you for those who are here to participate in this process. And we ask that you would go before us, that you would give us wisdom, and that we would give ear and let everyone and hear what everyone says tonight. Go before us, and we'll give you the praise and glory for what you do tonight. And it's in your holy name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, the roll, please.
Carrie Hyde, Ward 1, here. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
Alyssa Cordell, Ward 6.
Here.
Thank you, Julia. The first order of business is the approval of our council meeting minutes from September the 5th. And council, you've had an opportunity to review these minutes, and any edits to those should be noted now. If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Menino, start us off with a appointment, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The Historic Preservation Commission has 2 vacancies at this time. Parmalee Miller is recommended to fill one of those vacancies with your approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Randy, get us started with Z24-07, please.
Thank you again, Mayor. Z24-07 is a proposed zoning. It's currently zoned PD with conditions. The proposed zoning is PD with different conditions. With that, a little history on it. Going back in 2006, the property was zoned planned development. Before that, it was zoned R20 and light industrial. The planned development consisted of approximately 200 single-family residential homes, with the front of the area being commercial, approximately 19 acres. In 2022, Phase 1 of Jackson Farm started to develop the residential portion, the portion that was part of the planned development as residential. 2023, the Phase 2 infrastructure started going in for the development for the remaining single-family homes in there. Several months ago, there was a proposed change in the PD with conditions to conditions for townhome development on 12 acres in the front of the planned development. With that, they went through the Planning Commission process, and I believe it was withdrawn, never went through a final process. They've since come back again in the new proposal for that front 12 acres that's currently commercial on the approved plan, is to do a residential development of approximately 67 units, 32 of those being duplex type units, 27 ranch homes, and 8 cottage homes. With that, the plan did change in the middle of the application process, so it was submitted to all of our departments for review, and their comments were included in your package. Since then, the comments have changed a little bit, but more development related. When we got this new plan last Tuesday, it was resubmitted to our other city departments for review and comment. After that, we had a Planning Commission meeting. It was a pretty lively meeting. Several people spoke on the development, and with that, the Planning Commission did make a recommendation for approval of the PD with additional conditions. There are 8 additional conditions that are included in your package, unless you want me to read through them. But with that, Planning Commission did recommend approval of the application.
Thank you. Questions for Randy at this time? Thank you, sir. As I open up the public hearing, I do want to I want to lay out the procedure that we'll go through for tonight. Certainly the applicant is able to come forward and speak and make a presentation. After that, the floor will be open to anybody who wishes to speak for or against. We will limit comments to 5 minutes per speaker. If you want to use less than that time, that's fine too. The other thing, and I'll tell you what I view my role is to make sure that council gets as much information to them to make an informed decision on the case. So what that means is once we've heard something once, we want to continue to plow new ground. If we hear the same thing 3 times, it doesn't mean it's 3 times more impactful. That being said, we're up here as volunteers and elected officials to represent the community and do what's best for the city of Cartersville, and we're happy that you're here and we're glad that you're involved, and the same goes to the applicant for that matter. So that being said, I will open up the
Mayor,
yes.
before you do, let me just add one other
Sure.
comment.
Thank you, Keith.
Let you know for all speakers, if you're up using and you say you only speak for 3 minutes, and then after you hear 3 or 4 other speakers, you said, oh, I've still got 2 minutes left, I want to get up and speak my additional 2 minutes. You're not allowed to. Once you do your presentation, that is it. You're not allowed to do any rebuttal or anything else. Now, the applicant is allowed, after everyone speaks, to get up and address any of the concerns that were raised by any of the other speakers during that time period as part of their closing remarks. But just to remind any individual speaker, once you're done speaking, it's over with for you for tonight.
And we do 2 of these hearings. We'll have another one at our next council meeting before a vote is made. Was there anybody who intended to speak this evening who did not put their name on this piece of paper to sign up? Okay. If that's the case, then I will work strictly off this sheet. If you've signed up, you know who you are. And I'll open up the public hearing for Z24-07 and ask the applicant to step forward, please.
Good evening, Carl Lugents, 114 Old Mill Road. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Smith Douglas Homes, and I have a representative with Smith Douglas also with me. It's going to be a 2-part speaking. I'm going to speak more about the development and what development looks like. He will come up after me and speak more about the intentions of Smith Douglas and their business. So I always like to give a big history. I started a long time ago with this piece of property with Mr. Jackson, and we helped plan this as a planned unit development in the city of Cartersville in 2006 when we went through a rezoning. And some of this Mr. Mendino kind of hit on. The part of the property that you see on the north of the aerial photo, that's part of the development that was planned for single-family residential. That part of the property, when we went through a rezoning in 2006, was zoned more of an agricultural, or was R20, or I guess it was an R20 use, and we rezoned it to PUD. The front part of the land was actually zoned light industrial in 2006. So we went from a R20 and a light industrial zoning to planned development. At the time in 2006, the thought was build houses and build these strip mall commercials in front. That was a very popular thing. And the strip malls that we were doing then are somewhat different than what we are doing today. Still, a lot of people were still going to the stores and shopping at that time. So we had about 140,000 square feet of commercial boxes that we put on this frontage. Now that included both sides of what we call Silo Drive. Silo Drive is you can see it in the schematic, and you also see it here. It splits. We're focused only on this piece of property, but it also, the commercial also included the other side of the driveway, or the new drive that's there now. Since then, a lot of time has passed. The way we develop and the way we think of commercial is much different. And now it's more of a boutique style commercial where we don't look to put 140,000 square feet of commercial. If this were developed as commercial, the conditions from 2006 pretty much let anything in the OC district be placed on that property, which I could read a list of a lot of things. And we certainly feel like that is not what fits on this piece of property. This is more of a residential area, more of a boutique area, and we're trying to keep that in mind with our new development. Our original plan, so then we fast forwarded to, I'm gonna call it today, but a year ago, and we started thinking, what else can go on this piece of property? What fits more to the area? And so we originally designed a townhome community on the front of this property, and we visited with the neighborhood because we also wanted to hear their concerns and understood that there were concerns. We had 120 townhomes that were planned on this piece of property, and quickly understood that that was not something that was desired by the residents in the area. Therefore, we changed our plan. We went back and we modified the plan. We went to adding ranch-style homes along the frontage, so all the ranch-style homes would face, with their fronts would face Mission Road and Silo Drive, and then we had townhomes in the interior. That plan was still not desired, and that dropped, we were down around 109, 8 or 9 units at that point. We went back to the drawing board again, came back this time, and we had even reduced it further to more ranch-style homes and a very small amount of townhomes that were on it to get us to about 75 units. That plan was still not desired by the residents of the area, so we finally came back, and because of the cost of construction, I mean, we whittled it down to all ranch-style homes. Most of them, there are some that are individually separated and some that are connected, but they're ranch cottages is what we call them. They are a smaller footprint that we would fit in within in this area. Some are 2-car garages, some are 1-car garages. Part of the conditions from the Planning Commission was to pour all the parking areas as 2 parking spaces wide, 16 feet instead of a 12-foot driveway, which we agreed to those. I believe we've agreed to all the conditions that were placed from the Planning Commission. So currently now we've designed this for a single-story, all ranch cottages that we ended up with about 67 of those. There are 4 different products on this that as you can see, the frontage, that the ones along the front do look a little different. These are separated single family. These are the larger units with their fronts, their rear access, so their fronts all face the road. So when you drive by, you see the front of the unit, not the rear. So you can kind of see the ones that are separated, and you can see the other ones that are connected. And then we have a small amenity area. We did place a pickleball court because the marketing, Smith Douglas marketing, say, hey, this was very popular in this age-targeted community. And so we have a gathering space, but we've also heard that, from some people that maybe pickleball is not desired at that location. So that could either be a pickleball court or it could be an open space just for general use. We do have a small dog park, and then again we have a pond much similar. So the pond you see on the north is actually this photo was taken during the construction so that you can start to see the shape of the pond that was done for the original Jackson Farm development. So we ended up with 67 units, and in our opinion, this is we certainly could have fit a lot more townhomes. We've whittled this down to where it's now bare minimum to be feasible to do a project. I'm not sure we could lose another unit. Hopefully we don't lose any more during the engineering process, but it has 67 units, and we are looking forward to a approval by the City Council. I understand you guys don't vote today, but today we're here to answer any questions. I'm here to answer any questions that are specific about the development, and I will have Mr. Colin Bennett come up, talk a little about Smith Douglas and their intentions, and then he'll be here to answer any questions more about the structures that would be placed or their intentions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And with everybody, when you come forward to speak, your name and your address for our clerk, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Colin Bennett, 110 Village Trail, Woodstock. Again, I just want to, I'll be brief. I know Carl kind of give you guys a good history. You know, I've been with Smith Douglas for about 8 years now, born and raised in this town. I grew up about 5 miles from this project. And, you know, Smith Douglas, we are a large home builder, but Bartow, City of Cartersville is our place we want to be and build houses, and we've been very thankful to be here. But just to allude the product, I think we provided renderings, the attached single families, the rear alleys, the single family homes. You know, these are, we kind of did a little creation with our board and batten, kind of a farmhouse look, the schemes of color. I can answer any kind of questions on those, but they're all 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. One of the larger rear alley is a 2.5 bathroom. They range from 1164 to 1810 in square feet. So that's pretty much the gist of the product. I'll kind of touch a topic that I know is going to be spoken about this evening. You know, we went into it. We've had several meetings with the Jackson Farms, the Pettit Creek homeowners. One of the biggest things that have come up as of late is a restriction or targeted for 55 and up. And I just want to lay it all out there. There was an email sent, I think it was July 30th, from a representative of Smith Douglas, not myself, that said we would be considering the restriction for 55 and up. We then had a meeting, I believe it was August the 20th, with the homeowners. At that time, Colin, stated that, you know, we had preliminary conversation with a zoning attorney, or not a zoning attorney, but an HOA attorney, about all, you know, all the things that goes into HOPA, the Federal Fair Housing Act, which I didn't know. And, you know, it's something that we just decided to make it a targeted community. That's why we went all ranches. There's no 2 stories in this project. There's just several, you know, there's only one active 55 and up project in the city. But there's just several, the restrictions. I'm not going to go through them all. You guys have probably read them. But again, that's kind of our project, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
If we insisted on it being a 55 and up, age restricted, would that be a deal killer for you?
We're still going through the HOA attorney. It's you know, I can, you know, it's not ownership, it's occupancy. You can't have a person under the age of 18 more than 90 days in a calendar year. You know, if your spouse or significant other is 55 and somebody's under 55, you will be asked to, you know, eventually get out of that house, because one person must be 55 and up. There is a percentage, 80-20. Again, I'm not going to go through all the HOPA, the Federal Fair Housing Act, but it's very restrictive. You know, the intent is to do ranches. The intent is to have maintenance included, yards, sidewalks, landscaping, all that included. I mean, we're kind of, it's a targeted project. It's kind of our thought process. It could be empty nesters, downsizers, and you know, we build for all buyers. And I don't really want to just say you got to be 55 and up when you walk in our sales office. And we want to sell to any and all buyers that want to buy a house.
So you're saying you would not be willing to go forward with the project if it was a 55 and up project?
I'm not saying yes or no. You know, it's still a conversation, but our intent as of now is to not be 55 and up.
And I'll dovetail, because the email that we're referring to came from, I believe it's Connor Thorpe.
Connor Thorpe, yes, sir.
And it doesn't say, it says verbatim from what has been sent to me, we are submitting for zoning and have decided to go with a 55 plus age restricted. I will send you the updated site plan as soon as I get it. Would you be able to meet up and discuss? So it wasn't suggested, it wasn't, I mean, this, and furthermore, again, the decision to not go with it, a text or an email or something could have very easily been sent to say, hey, I know I've said this, we've all done this before, we've said something, then we've got to change our minds or something comes up. There was no notification to the people that you had been working with to try to make sure that this project would go smoothly. And I think that's why there's one of the reasons why there's a number of people here, and I think that's kind of important to be addressed.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Connor Thorpe, he does work for us. I didn't know he sent that until as of late. I really didn't know he sent it the day of the meeting we had on August the 20th. But there's several individuals that were there at the meeting that are here this evening that heard me speak that evening, and I did say it's not a yes or no. We're thinking about it. We're working through it. And I mean, I've had 2 or 3 conversations with HOA attorneys, because Smith Douglas Homes has never done a HOPA age-restricted guidelines following the Fair Housing Act. You know, not to put words in Connor's mouth, but he didn't really know as much as we know now of how restrictive it is. So I'm sorry that he sent that. I had no idea. I know Connor, Colin, some folks think that I sent it, but I did not. But it was mentioned at our meeting that it was not a yes nor a no. It was just, we're looking at it. Our biggest thing is, again, buyer walks in, you know, and I don't want to get all technical because I don't really know all the ends with sales agents, but showing IDs, and I got to see your ID to buy a house, and they may buy a house, but again, it's occupancy. It's ownership. So the HOA's got to manage it. They've got to meet once, twice a year, get IDs, make sure everybody's the right age. But
2 years.
Yeah. So yeah. Again, I've read some of it. It's a document I've got right here. But it's just very restrictive. And we just at Smith Douglas right now just really don't want to restrict our buyers to 55 and up.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So between the county and the city, let's just say recent, I won't give you a timeline, but recent, how many homes do you think y'all built between the county and the city, recent?
Hundreds.
Do you have an occupancy problem now with an age group looking, or is it pretty much across the board? I know you said empty nesters at one time, you got new home ownership. You're not really seeing one pulling more towards the other as far as who's buying your homes, right?
That's correct. It's a variety. You know, you've got empty nesters, you've got downsiders, you've got young couples, you've got families, and obviously in this market, price point is a big one.
And what is the price point for these?
I mean, right now it's I mean, again, it's preliminary, low to mid 3s.
Okay.
That's right now, but you know.
So let me ask you this, of the other developments, again, just trying to get scale, the density that you're seeking in this development, are there other developments that you've done around here that have that same density of people per acre?
So it's 67 and 12 acres, that's
5.13.
You know, we did the Felton Walk project, the townhome development. That was probably the most dense, you know, but it's townhomes, single family. In Bartow County, we did Cassville Commons, but that was 16, 17, you know, when we built those. Haven't done a project this dense.
Okay, thank you.
So when you talk about age-targeted community, when I look at it and I see all the units predominantly all of them 3-bedroom, 2-bath, that to me does not look age-targeted, but what other things in this community would you identify as age-targeted?
Maintenance included, yard maintenance. You know, we put a pickleball court on there. Again, that's not set in stone. We had a pool at one point. Just the lock and leave, just I guess the maintenance is the biggest thing. Yard just maintained. I mean, some folks say it's a lock and leave style, a lifestyle.
And you feel like that's age targeted?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions at this time? Thank you, sir.
Can I ask one?
Absolutely, that's why we're here.
On-street parking, I mean, I know all of them, or most of them have, a lot of them have one car. when I think about 3-bedroom homes, I don't know a lot of 3-bedroom homes who have one car. Are you gonna have on-street parking, or I know there's a restriction in there, or there's about 16-foot wide driveways, is that right?
Yeah, so there is one plan. It's one of the attached single families. I think it's the one in pink. It's not on there. But it's these right through here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those have one garage, but we will pour a 16-foot wide driveway so it looks like every other house inside there.
Those are duplexes.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant in general at this time?
Some questions for Carl.
Okay.
In your plan, one of the things they point out is you have to have turnarounds where this street dead ends. Is that something?
Yeah,
Achievable?
so what, and we had removed it, we had a rear drive that went, that you can see how this is, we had a rear drive that would connect that, all the other streets have turnarounds associated with fire code says that, you know, it's 100, in a lot of places, it's 150 feet. And, you know, and then you can, as long as you have a T intersection, you can within 100, and then no leg within 150 feet. But the city in engineering does want connectivity and either a circle or a true T intersection. I would say that T intersection I was showing you would meet the definition, but whatever we need to do as far as engineering goes. And if you don't mind, I'd like to regress back to one of your questions you asked, Mr. Bennett. What makes this an age-targeted community? And I know the big thing is a lot of people see the maintenance, what's included, and I think he's talking about the painting, the front yards, the roof needs repair, everything, and what that does, that elevates the cost in your HOA. So typically you find people that are more mature in their career or retired that will move to a place where they don't have to take care of anything, and they can afford it or can afford to pay HOA. The second thing is the size of homes. 1,100 and plus something square feet to 1,800 square feet. Those types of homes you typically see, again, not with somebody that has a lot of children. It's just not enough room. The bedrooms are not going to be these large master suites that you can, in extra area for kids and raising families. And the third thing that is very important is they're all ranches. There are no what they call it, lofts in the not in the attic or bonus rooms they call it. Everything is on the main floor. So you're living in a pretty confined space and all on the main floor. So this is what really makes an age-targeted community. It's a package of a lot of things. And I didn't mean to get off your initial question, but
I asked that.
Okay.
And I think to your other point, like I don't believe there's any basements also. So they're all ranch.
There's no basements. That's correct. Yeah.
There's a lot of concern about water, flooding. Where's the water going to go? Are you going to design that?
Yes. So
where's the water going to go?
Well, so right now it will all go to those ponds, and then underneath the railroad track, there's a cattle crossing, a very large opening that was used, I guess, to get cattle. I'm assuming it's that big. I don't know any other reason they would have that there. So most of the water floods. When it floods from Pettit Creek. If we have a flooding event, which is what generates our floodplain, it backs through that cattle crossing and floods this area. So what we do is we mitigate that by providing larger areas. That pond's a lot larger than 12 acres pond would need to be. In addition to that, we also did that for the development to the north of us. We over excavated the one to the north because we needed the dirt just to raise the property up.
So
but
you're
yes,
saying there's a lot of capacity in this pond?
yes, sir. And now No studies have been done to this date. We have some ideas, general ideas, but we will be providing those studies prior to, that's one of the things, if this moves forward, the very next item on the list to do, it is an expensive cost item, is to provide a flood study to allow my client, Smith Douglas, to know that, yes, it is okay to move forward with this. And then we would have to work with FEMA and the city before they would concur with our results or approve our plan.
There's a comment by Public Works in here, and it may just be a standard comment, but it says pond levels below the water table will not count towards
The volume
Is that
compensation.
a problem out here?
Yeah, well, it does have a higher water table because we've got the creek at that location, so pretty much the water table is right around where the creek elevation is. So anything below that's, if there's water already in the pond that we're using for compensatory mitigation for flood, then everything below that water level is not eligible for mitigation, so. But that is common, yes, that's it.
Any other questions for Mr. Lugents at this time? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will,
Can I ask Mr. Bennett that?
sure, we got another question for you, Mr. Bennett.
One of the things, that's been brought up about the age restricted, that you could do it through your covenants or your HOA versus the OPA. Is that something you've considered, or might not be quite as onerous enforcement?
We would consider that. There's two community, or there's one in this town that does have very, just said, owner shall be 50 and up, but everybody would assume that it's 55 and up. Again, we don't mind. It's just who monitors it, who's going to track it.
From my experience, the neighbors monitored it pretty hard.
Yes. Yeah, again, we just, and again, even if it's, you have a percentage, but when you go into a new construction, you can't assume the 80-20. Like you have to go into it 55 and up because it's occupancy, not ownership. And that's, but we don't have any problems with putting some kind of verbiage in there. Of some age, just the HOPA guidelines is just very restrictive.
I don't know if this needs to go to you or to Mr. Lugents, but one of the conditions that was put on the property, you agreed to it, I would encourage council to remove it, is that the streets inside the development would be private.
Yeah.
I don't know if either one of y'all want to handle that, but if these were public roads that were built to a standard, I would assume.
That's our intention. That was kind of my question to Mr. Carl was, if they're city streets, they're city streets.
So here is, I think it's.
Now, would you object if they were public streets?
I would not object,
Okay,
not object.
that's, okay,
Yeah.
that's,
But we have to leave that up to engineering to tell us whether they're okay to take the streets.
right.
And the reason being is, we have some parking on the street, and that's not typical. That is not a typical street section when you have street side parking. It's very common. It occurs in a lot of places, but that may not meet. Everything else, the street itself is designed and displayed as per a public street. Yeah, that and up the side, we've provided areas for.
And I guess from hearing some of the concerns and having them myself, quite honestly, my concern with the private area is 20 years down the road, the HOA owns the roads, and then they need to be paved, and then, it's up to, they call the city and say our road needs to be paved, and go, well, guess what? That's on you to do it. 60 homeowners, it's going to be $1 million to fix. Everybody pony up about $50,000 or $20,000 and we'll get on it. Again, it eventually fall back on us anyway. The other thing is, again, that if there were, again, if it's built to the city standards and radiuses for our service vehicles and for any other vehicles that need to enter that neighborhood, all those requirements
All those requirements meet. The only thing that didn't was the small amount of parking we have along the street side, which I think actually is nice in some communities.
Well, you designed it. You would
Yeah.
certainly say it is.
Hey, I had a roundabout in here and they took it out, so.
Mayor,
And I'm sure it is nice if you did it.
Mayor, if I could say at the planning commission meeting, I think that condition should have been that if the streets are to be private. Basically, what the planning commission was concerned with is that if the streets were private, the normal maintenance bond provisions that the city has would not apply, and they wanted something to be contained in the covenants that would require them to have a maintenance bond for those streets for a couple of years if they were going to be private, instead of being accepted by the city after that 1 year period.
Okay.
So I really think that condition, if y'all even want to impose that, should actually read that if the streets are to be private, then that bond that they referenced there is required.
I got you. Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you for that, Mr. Lovell. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No more. Nobody's saying they got one more. I'll open up the public hearing, or continue the public hearing for Z24-07, and ask anybody who wishes to speak for or against to put their name on this piece of paper to step forward and do so at this time.
And Mayor, just to let you know, for every speaker, when there's 1 minute of their time left, I will raise my hand showing one so they can plan to close their remarks.
Thank you. And your name, ma'am?
My name is Sheila Hernandez. I'm at 3812 Oaks Drive. I do want to say I was part of the small group that was meeting with Smith Douglas over the last year since the original townhome proposal was done. They did make a lot of changes. We appreciate the changes that they made. What we didn't appreciate was the fact that the 55 plus got pulled back while we were here at the zoning meeting last Thursday. That was the first we had heard that they were reneging on that idea. It was the first we had heard about HOPA that is so restrictive that, you know, it wasn't going to allow them to really build it and stuff. I tried Googling as quick as I could during that meeting, but obviously wasn't able to pull up as much. And I did submit a packet or letters with information that hopefully made it into your packet. But just a couple of things that I wanted to point out about this HOPA Act. The 80-20 rule, you can make it 100% if you want to, and I think that's what we're thinking of when it's you know, elderly care, where, you know, there's actually nursing facilities and stuff. But the 80-20 rule really only says, and what I had sent the council was what I thought was a very layman's term provided by the HUD department with questions and answers. And question number 3 was, you know, what were the qualifications or the restrictions to qualify for a 55 or older housing. 80% of the occupied units must be occupied by at least one person over the age of 55. And when this 80-20 rule is applied, if the person who is over 55 dies, the other person isn't forced to sell the house. They now become part of the 20%, okay? So it's not like anybody's gonna get booted out of their home if they're not 55. The second part of that was that the owner or management of the housing facility must publish and adhere to policies and procedures that demonstrate the intent to provide housing for 55 or older, easily done in the HOA CCRs. I'm the Secretary Treasurer for the HOA at the Reserve at Pettit Creek. I have read those things, God only knows how many times over the last 4 years, all right? It's not that hard to know what's in the CCRs, to have it written in there. Ours were originally done back in 2006 when this was first zoned residential. We wish that there were things that we could change now and add into the CCRs, but we've got to get majority vote and all that, because that was written into the CCRs. So anyway, it's very, very easy to put in the restrictions of, at least one occupant's got to be over 55. You can restrict the amount of time that minors could be under the age of 18. You can make it 90 days, you could make it 6 months, you could make it a year. Whatever's written into the HOA CCRs is what has to be abided by. You can restrict that children could not be outside after 6 p.m. if you wanted to, that they couldn't use the pickleball court. One of the things that we understood the purpose for the pickleball court was because it was going to be a 55-plus community. The Reserve recently, 2 years ago, converted our tennis court to be multi-use for pickleball and basketball. So, it was designed to be 55-plus, not just targeted. We feel that it was told that it was going to be 55-plus, and in good faith, that's why we agreed to go along with their proposal. The last thing about having to verify the age, again, easily done. Every year the HOA is in touch with every owner to say, hey, it's time to pay your dues. All it's got to do is written into the CCRs as well that annually when you pay the dues, you also have to sign a document that says that there's still at least one person over the age of 55 or whatever, and submit that. Could somebody lie? Absolutely. But now the HOA has the right to go back and say you're in violation, and if need be, place liens on the house, bring some kind of fines or, whatever. I don't feel, after reading through several different write-ups about HOPA, that it is so restrictive that it would limit even just, the 20%. That would allow 13 of these 17 or 67 homes.
5 minutes.
Okay. There could be, as far as the maintenance being one of the things that, really focus it. Did you say I'm at 5 or I got one more?
No, that's
You're
5.
you're at 5.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't see my 1 minute
you
warning.
can-
Oh, okay.
If you didn't see it.
You were going so fast, you blew right through it. If you've got a final sentence you want to wrap up with, that's
Well,
fine.
it was an additional comment I wanted to make
Well-
based on him saying that the HOA or the maintenance was one of the things.
I legally have to say 5 minutes, or else then it all.
Oh.
Go. So if you got a final, or maybe you pass that note on to somebody else and they can make that point, that'd be fine too.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. There's a question for you. Mr. Stepp would like to ask you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I get the gist of being told something and then it changes and the frustration. What is so attractive of just 55 and older that makes the surrounding area where this is like, hey, if it's not 55 and older, we don't support it?
Right. Really, there's multiple things. Number one.
And before you, I'm only 45.
Okay, that's fine. I'm over 55. I could buy if I want to. But, really, most of it is regarding the traffic. Okay? Mission Road is a 2-lane road. There's no way it's going to get widened coming into town because of the historic district. It's already a mess down there at the Fight 293 weird intersection. Nobody really knows who's supposed to go. We feel that if it's 55 plus, there is going to be fewer cars on the road. Again, a lot of these people may only have one car. They're not going to be going out at the 7 to 9, heavy getting to work or coming home between the 4 to 6 or 7 time period. Also with the school buses. I don't know if the school bus is going to want to pull in here. In the reserve at Pettit Creek, just a couple of years ago, they started doing 2 drop-offs in the front and the back of the neighborhood. In Jackson Farms, they're still only doing 1 drop-off in the front. My concern too is that if there are school-age children in this development, that the school bus is going to stop out on Mission Road instead of going into the subdivision because there is no entrance coming out on a silo road for them to pull in there. That's going to stop traffic, which we already have the train stopping at those tracks a couple of times a day, never know when, never know how long. And the fact that you've got 3 subdivisions, the reserve at Pettit Creek, Jackson Farms, proposed Silo Point, and the train tracks, probably within 2 to 3 at the most football field lengths. It's just a lot of congestion right there in that area. Okay, so really the traffic, the congestion, I'll throw in, we don't need any more children trying to jump the fences into the pools and the tennis courts and the amenities that currently exist in the reserve and Jackson Farms. That was a huge problem that we had in the reserve as Jackson Farms was being built, because they were probably a year and a half before they got their swimming pool in, and we had to spend all kind of money with cameras and security, locking it down, and they were still climbing the fence. So.
Thank you. Hello.
Hey, I'm Dr. Rebecca Owen. I reside at 44 Jackson Farm Road, which is Lot 2. It is actually adjacent to the proposed Silo Point development. I wanted to go after Sheila because a couple of the points that were raised, especially by Councilman Stepp, are on the what if. What if this is not a 55-plus community? So I have lived in Bartow County my entire life, say 4 years at the University of Georgia several years ago, but I'm currently an administrator at Ashworth Middle School with the Gordon County School System. And so one of my primary responsibilities at my school is bus transportation. And so I want to speak to a couple things. When I look at this, and whether it's a public or a private road, I can go ahead and tell you that the standard Bluebird school bus is 40 to 42 feet in length. A school bus is not going to be able to run a route with those sharp turns. Every day when I direct my buses at my school, I have to give my buses a margin of at least 25 feet to be able to make a very sharp right-hand turn so that they can be directionally put on the right path to be able to run the route and to be able to run that route in a timely manner. I don't speak for the City of Cartersville public school system, but if I were a transportation director, I can only imagine, especially coming from the new Cartersville Primary School that you know is up on the hill near Carter Grove. And if I'm setting up that route, a bus that would come down that direction to drop off on Mission Road is going to not be coming where students are going to be exiting to the right of the bus. They're probably going to be coming down Douthit Ferry Road, down Burnt Hickory. They're going to be making the right-hand turn at the corner market right there onto Mission Road, and then they're going to be letting students off where they're going to have to walk around the front of the bus. So if you're thinking about students as young as my daughter, who is 4 years old and in pre-K, I don't want my 4-year-old walking around the front of a bus on Mission Road. And there are a lot of other parents who would share that sentiment, okay? So those are just some very general concerns, and I just want to put this on the brain of the council right now, because I know this is something that has been in the news quite a bit. We do not want Bartow County, Cartersville to be associated with a school safety or a school bus safety fiasco. I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about the responsibility that we have to the children of this district. My daughter commutes with me to Gordon County because of some of the school bus safety issues at Jackson Farm. The bus for Cartersville City, it currently picks up between 6:20 and 6:30 in the morning. I'm not putting my 4-year-old on a bus at that time of the morning. So again, those are some personal things, some anecdotal things, along with some of the logistics there. Just some of the other concerns, again, the what if, I know, and again, Councilman Stepp, you posed a great question. One of the concerns and the benefit of why 55 plus is so appealing. And for those of us that reside at lots 1 through 4, the first 4, when you come up Silo Drive and make that left-hand turn onto Jackson Farm Road, one of the things that is very important to us is our privacy. We were promised that verbally when we purchased our homes. We were told that the privacy, and I know that this has been hashed out at other meetings and in other documentation that has been submitted to the council, but it was promised to us orally, verbally, when we had our sales meetings by the representative from Smith Douglas. And so one of the big things for me as a mama of young girls, I did not want a 2-story home looking down into my backyard, because again, in the day and age that we live in, privacy is at a premium when you're raising young children. So those are just some things that I just want the council to consider. Again, just some other concerns I think in general. in terms of maintenance, and in terms specifically with the water management, it is encouraging to hear from the representatives from Smith Douglas that a flood study is pending. I really challenge the council to vet that well, and whatever your decision is. We know that whoever is bankrolling something like that, there can be implicit biases that are embedded, and so we just need to be very mindful of such a concern.
I'll address that for you now,
Sure.
Mr. Lovell.
Please do,
If
yeah.
I'm wrong,
Go ahead.
is that after that floodplain study is submitted, the city engineer does review that, and it's upon their approval.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. That's a great point.
1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Just kind of wrapping up with some things. I think the other biggest thing, my home at Lot 2 is not within the designated flood zone. We do not have flood insurance because we're just outside of that. Our elevation is actually a little bit higher than our neighbors at Lot 3 and Lot 4. But we know that where they're at, and we know that there could be some drainage issues in that area. And that's one of the biggest concerns. It's just the management of that water and that it's engineered properly and correctly so that we not only not have an issue today, but when we get down the road, 10, 15 years down the road, that erosion does not become a problem, that easement issues do not become a problem. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to step forward and speak may do so at this time. Going once.
How y'all doing? My name is Mark Staples. I live at 1412 Oaks Drive. So listening to the presentation today, I heard a lot of we didn't know the rules are going to be onerous, but we don't really understand the rules, but we want you all to make a decision and based on the fact that we don't understand the rules. I think if you're going to come here and say, we can't do a 55 and up community, you need to figure out what the rules are because that's your job. And then know why you can't or what you can do. I mean, they have lawyers. They've said they've consulted with these lawyers. I don't understand why we don't understand the rules and someone has to go to Google to look up what these HOPA rules are. I mean, if you don't understand the rules, then figure out the rules and then come to you guys to make a decision. But anyways, I saw that and it kind of bothered me and I just wanted to make sure that was addressed to the committee.
Thank you. Again, we're in the midst of a public hearing for Z24-07 and ask anybody who wishes to step forward to speak for or against to do so at this time. You keep on rallying everybody. Are you?
I'm trying to get her to go, but she didn't sign up. I don't want to think.
Okay, thank you. With nobody stepping forward, I will slowly close the public hearing.
Mayor,
I will not close the public hearing because
they're allowed to give a
yes,
rebuttal. if
I
they would like.
apologize. I've only been doing this for 16, 18 years and don't know how to do it yet.
One of the concerns I heard was traffic, and that would be an engineering issue that we would deal with, or when I say an issue, it's not. We don't know if there's a problem yet in the development. I'm not arguing that there's not a lot of traffic on Mission Road because I certainly believe there is, but we got to also put into context it's 67 units. Majority of this traffic doesn't come from right here. The majority of this traffic comes from somewhere west of this point. And so 67 homes of this nature does not, that when we run a trip generation, just from my experience, and I have not ran those numbers, but I can tell you, you're not going to see that much traffic. And the difference between a senior community and a community that is a non-senior community, and we're not saying that, I'm not saying it's senior age targeted, I'm just saying a senior community and non-senior community would be very minimal change in traffic. There may be a change, but it would be a very minimal change in traffic. Not something that...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I see some people doing this, and I want to make sure that
That is my
that is-
professional opinion from what I have,
Okay.
what my
I
experience
didn't know
that
if
I've
there was a
designed.
standard or a
Yes.
book or something.
No, there is a standard for that. So I don't know the exact
I
trips,
understand.
but I know that there is a minimal difference, and when you add that difference times 67 units, now if you had 300, then you might see a little more difference.
Gotcha, thank you.
School buses, these roads are designed to public standards, so if they can make it through a lot of, any kind of turns, they're 26 feet wide, 36-foot radiuses, fire trucks, school buses, and another condition I think the city has also placed on here is that we need to make sure a WB-40, which is a larger box truck, it's almost not quite a transfer truck, but it's a larger box truck that will get through this. So certainly all those turn analyses and trip analyses, those will be performed. We will make sure that these street networks will accommodate those vehicles. I also live here in town, and I do know that the school bus will and can stop on main roads. I think the one stops in front of my neighborhood on Pine Grove Road. Stops very temporarily, but I also see a lot of kids walking to other places to get on a school bus. 67 units is not going to generate. If this were not a senior community and this were just a standard community, 67 homes is not going to generate enough kids for a whole nother school bus when they can just walk across the street and get on the school bus that's at the front of Jackson Farm. So all this area is hooked together with sidewalks. So there's sidewalks within the community, there's sidewalks out front, there's sidewalks down Silo Drive. So I believe those safe routes will be provided. And I would hope that, and again, that is not my decision to make. I'm not the guy who sets the school bus routes, but if that were a concern, I would hope that our school system would look at that and make the proper decision to have that one bus stop within Silo Drive or along Silo Drive where it is a public street. So I believe those are the main points that I looked at from an engineering. The other things we have already discussed at length about flood. So it was traffic and flood that I heard, and I wanted to answer those questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bennett, did you have any follow-up on that, or are you good? Thank you.
Is there the opportunity to rebut the rebuttal?
No, you'll have an opportunity at we meet again on October the 3rd, and we'll go through the same process again, and then it'll be turned over to council for consideration. So that being said, we will move on to the next item. Before I do, I know there's many people that are here. We'd love to have you stay and watch the wheels of your local government turn. But we also understand that you've been here a while, and if I'll give you all just a minute for those of you that might want to get up and leave to go ahead and do that now, but you're certainly welcome to stay. And I will close the public hearing for Z24-07. Thank you. Now, I should call on Freddie to come forward while everybody's filing out, make him like a salmon and swim upstream.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, whenever you are ready, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is the second reading of the ordinance of the schedule of charges updates for advance payments. As we discussed earlier, we can do administrative changes on our part in the SOP to make sure we give a 6-month period for that. But we're asking for your approval or any of the questions you have.
With the change, recommended change from changing
To
average to
highest.
highest in the ordinance.
If you will, please.
Yes. Are there questions, comments, or discussion?
I think we hashed it out pretty good in the work session.
Okay.
And the desire to change the word from highest or from average to highest is?
The reason is basically some of our gas customers are only winter only. They only get it seasonal. And if we do average, it's going to skew that. You know, they may only have high bills, a couple $100s a month for 3 months. If you average over average of 12 months, it's going to be a very low deposit on file, advance payment, versus the highest bills. Because again, we have several that are just maybe have only hot water or seasonal usage. It's very rare, again, it's not that many customers.
Forgive me for asking, it's 3 highest months?
2 highest.
Two.
Two.
Yes.
Any other discussion or questions? If there are none, a motion is in, no, there's not a motion in order, because, yes, it is, the second readings. Having a rough go of it tonight, folks. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
As
Does,
amended.
does that motion include the verbiage of average or highest?
Yeah.
Okay, so as
Just
amended,
go on with what y'all said.
as amended,
As amended, as y'all
or
said.
as,
I got it.
Okay, now, before y'all vote, I have a question, because y'all just raised something that was not discussed during the work session. It was that it was to be the highest estimated 2 months of utility billing, whereas what you,
is really what the highest, the average of the highest two, correct?
well, what y'all talked about during the work session was just highest, period, single month. So if you want it to be 2 months, a highest of 2 months, then we need to do an additional amendment to the ordinance. Because what was discussed during the meeting and the amendment that was approved is just changing average to highest.
See, what I thought we were doing was taking the 2 highest months and taking an average of those to get that total.
That's because they've always taken the
The
2
ordinance always said to the highest two.
2 months.
Well, how the ordinance reads is, as amended right now, 2 times their highest estimated or actual monthly utility bill. So that's not an,
So we're taking
One
their
bill.
one bill, multiplying it times 2.
Correct.
And that's it.
yes. I just want to make sure that's what y'all
do that.
want, because if it's not, then
This,
we need to propose another amendment to this ordinance.
my recommendation was going to be the average, the 2 highest months, because you may have one at $100, may have 300, and it's the average of the 2, is what I was recommending.
And we can't vote on that.
I mean, you
Oh, we
can.
can. We
just
should-
have
we
to
just don't
get-
need to
get-
vote.
get-
So the
Can I
motion would
amend
have,
my
the
motion?
motion would have to be to amend this to say that the total is going to be the average of the 2 highest months times 2.
Just to
Well, actually, what the amendment would read is, of 2 times the average of the highest 2 months on their estimated utility or actual monthly bill. And, we'll have to word that, but that's what it, from what y'all discussed, that's how y'all want it to read. So Jace could, or anybody else could offer an amendment to Jace's motion to add that to that, and then you would second that, and then the procedure that you would follow is we would vote on the amendment first, and then you would actually vote on the underlying ordinance. Don't ask me why it's Robert Rules of Orders, I don't understand it either.
Point of
Can
order.
we just let mine die?
Yes.
Can we ask Mr. Stepp to withdraw his motion?
Well, y'all can just,
You don't have to
Mayor
have-
can just call
we
it
can
and it can
withdraw.
die. And then you can ask for another
Let's
motion.
start over.
Nobody seconded his motion to my knowledge. Anybody
They did.
Well, they didn't mean it.
So would you like to withdraw your second?
I would.
Would anybody like to second it? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Is that going in the paper?
Yes. Front page.
Did you get all that?
So,
Or on the radio?
so now, it already is. So the motion should now be,
The proposal should be to amend the proposed ordinance to read 2 times the average of their highest 2 months of their, that's how it should read.
Yep, see, somebody wrote that down.
Julia does.
So we are amending
it's
it.
2 times the average of their 2 highest.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that was in there. So, Mr. Stepp, would you like to make that motion?
I'm not making it, nope. Somebody else. Calvin, get in the game. I make a motion to approve as amended per the city attorney's guidance.
Second.
All in favor,
You got anything
indicate
else to
by
say?
saying aye.
Aye.
I think the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
That was easy, Freddie, thank you. While we're at it, we have to add 3 items to the agenda. Let me just do that now. Chair Wellington,
Second.
all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. 3 items added. Mr. Porter, you've got an amendment to the Civic Center renting
Yes,
ordinance?
this is second reading. This is to lift the restriction on regularly scheduled meetings as part of our requirements currently, and I recommend that for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Pabst, you are up, and then Mr. McKee, you're on deck.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Parks and Rec is looking for approval to purchase a Exmark diesel 144-inch mower. This will be used to maintain our ball fields, keep them fast and sharp, and help with the weed control. So this is a budgeted item. It would come out to $66,794, and we look for your approval on that.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Please do.
Are these same models that we had before, or is this a different frame?
This will be different. Yep. This is obviously a bigger mower. Be able to handle a lot more. What we have right now are the Hustler 104s. Those are the other big mowers we have, but this is obviously 40 inches larger. And we do have some Exmarts, but they're just different, chassis. We have multiple different kinds. So
These are dedicated to use?
yes, these would be primarily used for the ball fields. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Eric. Mr. McKee, you are up, please, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The first item that we have tonight is the Electric Department is requesting approval to purchase a 3-reel cable pulling trailer. We received 3 quotations and deemed the quotation from Brooks Brothers Trailers to be the best based upon price and lead time. We request authorization to purchase the trailer from Brooks Brothers Trailers in the amount of $87,864, and this is a budgeted expense.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Continue on, please.
The second item that we have tonight, the Electric Department requests approval to buy 16 replacement welded gear lockers from Mason Hall and Company Incorporated of Mapleton, Georgia for $14,705. This request is budgeted and recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Last item for you, Tom.
And the final item, the Electric Department requests approval to purchase a replacement pickup truck. This truck will be replacing a 2008 Ford F-150 with about 148,000 miles on it. The truck that we're looking to purchase is a 2024 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive crew cab from Prater Ford in the amount of $49,648.16. This request is budgeted and recommended for approval.
Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Chief Champion, you've got a couple tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This first item is for the fire department seeking approval for purchase of a Motorola Consulette. This will be for Station 5. It does serve as the primary radio as well as the alerting system within the station. We sought quotes from our Motorola representative for a total of $9,318.15. This is a budgeted item for Station 5.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please.
The next item is also fire department approval for Motorola radios. These are mobile radios that actually go in the apparatus that will be arriving in early 2025. These items were quoted for Motorola for a total of $9,022.78. This is a budgeted item.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Porter, you got the next couple here.
Yes, Mayor, we have the annual employee lunches coming up and looking to use a company called Gas and Street Eats to cater that event, and I recommend that for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
What are they serving?
There's a couple different menu items, and we'll share that with Mayor Council to be there.
Wow. That was a political answer if I ever heard one right there.
I don't have the menu memorized. There's a couple different things, so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
I believe
Hopefully it'll coat your stomach as good as Dan coated answering that question.
Oh, it is?
I know.
Next item is the demolition of Tent Park Court, which had been used by our election department, but they have moved out of that and looking for approval to demolish that using the 2020 SPOS funds.
I want to thank the residents of Park Court for their patience and understanding as we use that facility. I'm glad that we are now out of there, and I'm looking forward to us getting that building down and doing some, well, just doing the landscaping and getting that back to the neighborlyhood look that it has. And with that, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Forsyth, you are up, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item I have is a request to purchase 54 3/4 inch smart water meter smart points for our AMI meters. That's actually just 2 boxes of those for $10,152 from Kendall Supplier, sole source supplier for these items. It's a budgeted item. Recommended for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item.
Yes, sir. This other item is the first reading of an ordinance as required by the city's delegated authority by the state EPD to review and approve water and sewer extensions. We have to review and update our development regulations for both water and sewer, and these ordinances are overdue for being updated. They have been reviewed by the city attorney and is recommended for your approval at the next meeting, next reading.
Thank you for
And
that.
just so y'all are aware, there's also actually about a 20-page manual that goes with this ordinance, which actually details the standards and specifications.
Hey, did you review those? Those are all to your liking?
Stacy in my office reviewed it and caught typos. I didn't understand them, so I did not bother to review them.
Very good. Well, we'll take that into consideration. We'll give Keith a couple weeks to read that, and then we'll take it up on October the 3rd.
Mayor,
yes.
while Sydney's up here, I just want to publicly express, I know we got a really big project in Ward 3 in the Waterford, realigning some sewer lines back there, and I just want to publicly, tell Sydney thank you for the communication. Just keep up the good communication with the residents there and what's happening there. I know that we have inconvenienced some, and they've been very gracious, and I just want to, publicly thank those residents for that, but then also our water department who's working along with those. But that is a really big project for that neighborhood, so I do appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll have to give all the credit to our engineering and construction group, Mike DeLeon and Amory Lissa and those folks. They're the ones doing the communicating. I just sit back and watch. But as well, the residents as well have been amazing. I've talked with several of them, and I hope and wish that all customers, neighbors, and residents were as easy to work with as that group, and I really appreciate it.
Pass on compliments.
Thank you.
Next item is to you, Mr. Porter, time change for our December 5th meeting.
Yes, Mayor, that's the annual Christmas parade that evening, so recommend to change that to a morning meeting. On this resolution, asking for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Lovell, you're going to handle number 17 and then the 3 added items we have, please, sir.
Yes, sir. The first one is item 17 is a standard encroachment agreement with Georgia Transmission Company for various city utilities to serve Jackson Farm subdivision. It is recommended by staff for your approval.
And just as a point, this has nothing to do with that hearing that was earlier.
No, it does not. These are for utilities serving the rest of the Jackson Farm subdivision.
Thank you, though. Thank you. for that. So Chair will entertain a motion on that item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And then that first item that we added is also an encroachment agreement.
Correct, sir. It's an encroachment agreement with Georgia Power Company to allow us to have driveways cross their utility lines at our water plant.
Thank
It is
you.
recommended by staff for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have an easement on Irwin Street.
Yes, Mayor. This is a recommendation for the council to go ahead and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign an easement for a private sewer line on Irwin Street at 323 South Irwin Street, when that is submitted to us by the school system who operates out of that property.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And then the final one.
Yes, Mayor, as y'all all are aware, we went to the Georgia Municipal Association to handle our pension for the city employees in the future. Part of that requires them to submit to the IRS some forms that need to be signed off by the mayor. So along with copies of our pension plan, I am recommending that y'all authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign those forms to allow them to do so.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. As we always do, we save the best for last. Tom, come on forward, give us that financial report.
Here's a good short one for you. You have my report in front of you.
I
Any
do.
questions?
I actually suggested that he just come up and say, we're financially sound.
Okay, I'll go along with that one too. Honorable Mayor and Council, we'll be looking at the July 2024 and comparing to July 2023. In the general fund, revenues decreased over last year by $55,000. Expenses increased by $406,000. Two areas of revenue that I look at on a monthly basis: local option sales tax have a decrease there of about $230,000, and building permits and inspection fees a decrease there of about $352,000. The water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last year by $360,000. Expenses increased by $129,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, decreased debt service expenses, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. In the gas fund, revenues increased over last year by $484,000. Expenses increased by $732,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased cost of purchase of gas, increased capital expenses, and increase in transfers to the general fund. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by $840,000. Expenses decreased by $558,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased cost of purchase of gas, decreased capital expenses, and increased operating expenses. In the stormwater fund, revenues increased over last year by $9,000. Expenses decreased by $73,000. And this is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and decreased capital expenses. Solid waste fund, revenues increased over last year by $249,000, and the expenses decreased by $4,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses and decreased operating expenses. Finally, in the fiber optics fund, revenues increased over last year by $10,000. Expenses increased by $18,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses and increased operating expenses. Our cash position for the month of July 2024, total unrestricted cash balance is decreased. Total restricted cash balance also decreased. SPOS 2014 balance $237,015.23. SPOS 2020 is $13,509,327.63.
Anything to add?
Just, Mayor's, again, the first month of the fiscal year, one thing you keep in mind in the general fund is the fire station. Of course, we had 16 million we received last fiscal year from the sale of the property at Highland 75. So you're going to continue to see that general fund, you think it's going to lose money, but we're using those reserves to help pay for the fire station and for the new rec building. So, but in that first, obviously in July, we had the new fire trucks, some new fire trucks we paid for, as well as about $100,000 in expense for Fire Station 5.
Yeah. So the comparative number is gonna make it sound like we're going in the wrong direction, but we're actually doing fine.
Yes, we agreed, the council agreed to use reserves for those new facilities because there was a return on investment on Highland 75. As you see, the other funds are doing well first part of the year, and we are continuing looking at those. That's monitor every month.
Thank you. Any other business or any other questions for Tom? Thank you, sir.
200 and something thousand from 2014. Is there projects that we're still on that list that we're trying to get done?
That is slated to be used for, roads, milling and resurfacing roads. We should get spent some, call it fund.
Yeah, Tom wants that thing closed. Remember how excited when the 2002 one closed out? That was great. Tom hurt his back doing a cartwheel after that happened. Any other business that needs to come before the city tonight? 180 seconds of nonsense that has nothing to do with the city? Not tonight.
I have one public service announcement, and then I've got another announcement. But if you own a golf cart, I would encourage you to go to Municode and read the golf cart ordinance. The other, last Wednesday, I was coming down Old Mill. There was a young child driving a golf cart on Old Mill in the turn lane in the 5 o'clock hour. That is not acceptable. That is a safety hazard in our city. And regardless if there's an adult with them or not, a golf cart in a turn lane on Old Mill in the 5 o'clock hour is not acceptable. I know that there are children driving golf carts in my neighborhood. That's not acceptable. Please read the ordinance, and let's not have an incident of a car running into a golf cart. Golf cart windshields are not made to prevent injury. Golf carts are not built to prevent injury. They are a luxury item, and there's a privilege to drive them on our roads. Please be aware of the safety that you put a young child in and their friends in when they're on city roads driving golf carts. Please read the code. Go to municode.com and you can read it, or you can go by the police department. I think they probably give you a copy of it, but I've seen a lot, and we need to really look at our safety on that, and it comes down to know who's driving your cart and know where your cart is being driven. So.
On that note, Logan, don't y'all have a page on the website about golf carts?
I believe we do, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I believe it's in the police department.
Okay. And also,
How about we put a link on the home page for the next little bit, if we can do that?
Yeah. Also, just so you know, no golf carts should be on Old Mill Road, period, because it is, at least until Doffett Ferry is finished, it is designated as a state route.
Agreed.
Old Mill is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can't cross it to get into town?
Nope.
It's just barriered off, so all Waterford, well, they cannot. They gotta go to El Charro. Can't go downtown.
The other announcement I have is that this Saturday, on a much brighter note, is the beautiful Backroad Century Bike Ride, which is starting at Anheuser-Busch, which is a great fundraiser for Hickory Log Personal Care Home. And it'll be great weather, so if you ride a bike, come out, sign up, and be a part of that great event.
We want those 1,000 people to be safe on our roads too. We want to look out for them, so.
Yield to the bicycle.
Very good.
Give room, share the road.
Share the road. Any other business to come before the city of Cartersville tonight? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.